Let's make sure we talk a little bit about the Brown Bookshelf. So please tell us about the site and your mission to, according to the site, to push awareness of the myriad Black voices writing for younger readers. I love that. What is the Brown Bookshelf?
The Brown Bookshelf is essentially a blog, but it's a little bit more than that. It is our labor of love. Every year, we select 28 Black creatives to amplify during February. And it's funny because that initiative is called 28 Days Later. And you mentioned zombies when you were.
Oh, of course, there was no chance I wasn't going to bring up zombies.
And the irony is that when we created it, and I was the one who named it, and I can remember, I think Varian was like, "Are we sure we want to name it that? That's a zombie movie." And I said, "Yeah, because 28 days later, people will walk away, armed with the names of 28 creatives that either they didn't know before or whose new work they weren't aware of." And I said, so, I just think it's appropriate. Like, it has nothing to do with zombies, but, the fact that it may pique people's interest that way is, it's only fun. It's a fun plus. But when I was given my first contract, one of the first things that I thought about was how it's very difficult for Black creatives to get exposure. They tend to be underexposed. They tend to be distributed. They're not as distributed as well, or at least they weren't. And it's still the case, but back in 2007, for sure. And I went to Varian Johnson and I said, what if we created a site to just bring attention to the other Black children lit authors out there? Because it didn't seem like there were a lot of us, because that's how underexposed they were. And he was just nuts enough to say yes. And so we wrote Kelly Starling Lyons and Dawn Tate into it. And we, and at the time, Carla Surratt was part of our original group. And it was just a very simple thing. We would pick, I can't remember the number, but most of the authors or authors and illustrators were under what we considered under the radar. But then we would also select some who were pioneers, trailblazers, people who had paved the way. And we've been doing it ever since. And it's a labor of love for certain, because it's a lot of work. We are all creatives ourselves. So we're taking, time away from our own writing, our own illustrating to do this, but yet we have never failed. We continue to do it, and we've actually grown in trying to feature so that we do it beyond February. But for the longest time, that's all we had the bandwidth for. So we're attempting to be a little more consistent, and some of the initiatives that we've taken on now are to just help to defeat anti-Blackness and to promote, anti-racism. So we stay busy.
I hope that Varian Johnson finally gets an opportunity. It's tragic that he's faded into obscurity all these years later.
This poor man.
Why won't someone give him a break? Working with a site like that, you must have come into contact, aside from the obviously extremely noteworthy Varian Johnson, you must have come into contact with all sorts of fascinating, interesting people. What kind of networking opportunities has being involved with the Brown Bookshelf opened up for you?
So I don't know about that it's opened up networking for me. I know that it's a platform that I'm very proud of. I find it a lot easier to amplify other voices and to advocate for inclusion in literature than I find to just talk about my books all day. So for me, it's been a way to keep my name out there, but beyond just talking about my own work. And it's my way of sort of paying it forward. I always hope that when we talk about Black children's authors, that my name will be in the mix somewhere, because as an author, like, we dream of having a kid say, oh, I read you. I remember reading you when I was a kid. So, yeah, like, I want that, but it's also important to me that Black creatives are able to establish themselves with that kind of name recognition in general. Because like I said, when we started, to me, it felt like, where are all the Black authors? As if they didn't exist. I knew they existed. I just knew I didn't hear about them. So it's important for us to make sure that doesn't happen anymore, or at least that it doesn't happen as often.
And where can a steeped audience who's leaning forward, listening closely, saying, yes, I want that also. I 100% support anti-Blackness, because only the best people listen to the Middle Grade Ninja podcast. Where can they go to support the Brown Bookshelf, and how can they get involved?
So you can go to thebrownbookshelf.com. We, as far as support is concerned, we just want people to visit the page. We want people to make sure that they amplify the voices that they see when they're looking for a book by a Black creative. Then we hope they come to us first, because our 28 days later, we have like 12 years worth. And we have other features on there, but that's 12 years that's a lot of creatives. So if they're not on our site, man, I don't know, because we covered a lot of people. But we are looking at ways to categorize them differently. Like right now, you would literally have to go through every single year and just kind of look through. I mean, we have a search engine, so you can do that. But we're thinking about, perhaps using a different tactic. So if anybody ever wanted to volunteer some time and help us do that, that'd be great. But mostly we just want the eyeballs on the site, and for people to help us amplify the authors that they see on there.
Obviously, to share every post they come across on social media, help spread the word, steamed audience.
Absolutely.
And while you're doing it, tweet out the podcast. I appreciate it.
You got to do the work, people.